by the notion because it felt so unattainable for me. And so what I replaced it with was I will be useful.
It's like, your brain will never make you happy. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It won't even allow you to enjoy an apple. You go, is it organic? It's like, your brain is analyzing so later people believe you. You've told yourself a lie, fuck happiness. No, fuck suffering. That's you gotta be your new one, fuck suffering. Like, I wanna engage enjoyment. It's not my duty, it's my gift. It's my honor, it's my opportunity. That's the difference between rich and poor. And rich and poor is not money. Right? Rich and poor is feeling fully alive, that's rich, right? Poor is you work your ass off and you have plenty of money.
Tony Robbins, strategist to some of the most important people in the world. People that you have seen publicly and probably many more that you haven't seen privately that have impacted your life. And he's both a wealth strategist, but also a life strategist. And so we're talking politicians, royal families, US presidents, Margaret Thatcher, Princess Diana, Andre Agassi, Mike Tyson, just the greats. And he's also published books. He's got 100+ companies in his portfolio that do north of $7+ billion a year. And as impressive as that is,
It's actually 12 billion now.
12 billion, there you go. I was gonna say, I was like, I hope this number isn't wrong. I looked all over the internet. Most importantly, at least for me personally, is that you wrote books that changed my life directly. And in a couple cool ways. So the first is, there was an Indian guy who came here to the US 20-something years ago, and he was working as a janitor, and he had such a thick accent that they said you're never gonna get employed anywhere, you have to learn how to speak. And he tried to get, how to get rid of an Indian accent tapes, and those didn't really exist. And so they were like, well, you can check out these from the public library, those Tony Robbins tapes. And so he would just mop the floors listening to Awake the Giant Within. Wait, the Sleep, sorry, but yeah, thank you, yes. And so he's mopping the floors and he's doing it, and that man then started a software company, scaled that, sold it, started another company, sold that for $1.4 billion, did another company, took that from 200 to 1.2 billion, and I met him right around that time when he's my partner in that company.
Which is, let's say, duty, or I've got to do this, or I have to do, or obligation, right? Or just, I'm gonna make this happen. And look, brother, you have a huge amount of willpower. It's pretty obvious that way. You probably have tremendous respect. And I do too. But willpower only goes so far. That's push. Whole motivation is when there's something out there that you want to serve more than yourself that'll get you over and keep you away. And it isn't hard. It isn't duty. It is like what I'm made for. And when you tap into that, your energy level will explode. It doesn't mean overnight everything's going to work your way. Of course it doesn't. But it will give you constant endurance to move forward in a way in which you enjoy your life rather than someday when I get to this number then I'm slowly going to feel good. Because it's not true. You get to the number and if there's numbers, it'll never be enough. Right? As you know that, you've done incredibly well. I have so many friends that they got their business, they sold it, they made $1 billion, whatever it is, and they, 5 months later they're looking to get back in business again because so many of their needs were met by the demands and the challenges and the growing. I think the biggest problem we have as human beings is that we think we shouldn't have any. It's like problems make you grow. Problems call to you because, listen, you built in a good shape. You wouldn't be there if you lifted light weights and did 100 curls with some lightweight, right? You're built. You built this body. You built it by challenging it. But some people, maybe because of your background in the fitness industry, no pain, no gain. But today we know that's not true. We know today it's the minimum dose will produce the maximum result. You overdo it, you tear down too much, right? It's like finding the right dose, just like anything else, like a drug for somebody. And so I think if you think you're going to just go off and enjoy your life and not add value, you're going to be frustrated. How many people do you know that were rich and famous in the world loved and they killed themselves? That's when they stopped growing. I think there's a half dozen people I've brought in the last 10 years. So I think, to me, it's not duty, but I do believe it goes much together, much as expected. I come from that place too, but to me, the expectation is a pleasure. I think the language we use trains our brain. It's like if you said to me, if I said to you, during the break here, let's have some nutritious snacks. I said that to a mass audience, maybe for you to respond positively because you're fit, but most people are like, But if I say delicious snacks, they're interested. Or someone says to me, Tony, you meet so many people. Hook me up, introduce me to a great guy, a great woman. And if I said to them, well, I know this guy or I know this woman, they're really nice. You know,
geez,
right?
right.
Versus, you know, they're sensual, they're sexy, they're amazing, they're delicious, whatever the case is. Right? You know, it's a different piece.
They're not nutritious people.
So,
right?
not nutritious. But you see what I mean? The words change your biochemistry. The words you attach to an experience become your experience. If you over and over use certain words, you won't even know it, and you'll train yourself to have certain, what I call an emotional home. Now, what the fuck do you do after you've walked on the moon for adventure?
Yeah, right.
Like, it's like you're 35 and you walked on the moon. What do? And most of them became alcoholics and drug addicted.
Yeah.
And the reason is they forgot how to find that joy or that adventure in a smile. And so you have trained yourself to be pain equals success, and success has a certain amount of value, but fuck happiness. You have literally hypnotized yourself into missing it because you weren't feeling fulfilled. So the idea that these people keep telling you, I would tell you is true, and I'll just give my own experience. We're not the same person, but maybe it'll be instructive, I don't know. So, I don't know, maybe 10 years I found myself in a place where it's like, I love my life. I couldn't be more fulfilled than this. I have the most incredible wife. I have the most incredible kids. You know, I want to be an athlete and make it. Right behind you, I have like 6 national championship rings from different teams that I own or that I help to coach and turn around. I'm working with the greatest athletes in the world, the greatest business people in the world. I'm having fun. I've got homes all over the world. There's nothing that, what else could make me fulfilled? I mean, this is the it. You know, I can't be any more, and I'm not complaining. But then there's some part of me like you that was hungry for more stuff. You wouldn't be asking that question unless there was part of you that wants a hunger for something called happiness or wants something besides just duty, or you wouldn't ask me. So, and I'm not telling you I have the answer, but I'll tell you what it was for me. It's like, the same these people told you is me. I always was contributing, same as you. I've been doing it since very little. But I started saying, you know what I'm gonna do? I want to do some moonshots in that area. I know how to scale businesses. Businesses are nothing up to 12 billion. It's like in those days it was like 4 billion. Like, what would really get me going? And at that point, I've been feeding people since I was a kid. When I was 11 years old and I had no food on Thanksgiving, somebody came and delivered food, changed my life. It made me believe strangers care, so I cared about strangers. And I started 2 families, 4 families, I got to 1 million, 4 million. So at this point, I've been feeding people for 37 years. So I called my foundation, how many people have I fed in my lifetime? And they said 42 million. I was like, that's pretty awesome. But I had no association to it. I felt good about it, but I was doing it, all these different ways. I was like, there's so much pain out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna feed 1 billion people in the next 10 years. It took 37 years to do 42 billion. I started out by saying, well, what if I did as many people I've done in my lifetime in the next 10 years? What if I did as many people in a lifetime in 1 year? And then I was like, what if we did 100 million people in a year? What if we did 100 million people a year for 10 years and fed 1 billion meals right here in the United States? And I got so ignited by that, Alex. That it was more than, it wasn't money, it wasn't business, it wasn't success, it wasn't, okay, there's the system. It was like, I have to rip apart. If it took me 37 years to do 42 million, to go to 1 billion is gonna require me to think differently, come up with strategy different, be different, and to think of 1 billion lives. That number somehow brought a different level of life. It's kind of like Kennedy saying, we're gonna go in this decade and we're gonna land on the moon and bring a man back to the earth. And all the guys at NASA are like, bullshit, right? This is not gonna happen, right? We don't have technology to do it. I don't care, this is what we're gonna do. There's something about building a moonshot for contribution outside even what you've done in business. And I did it, I said I'd do it in 10 years, I did it in 8 years. So then I finished that and was like, I'm traveling around the world, you see people starving, it's just trying to do what you're gonna do. It's like, no, I need something bigger. Most of us in life try to pretend we're one thing. Society makes you try to pretend you're one thing. I'm sure your wife has multiple personalities. My wife sure does. When I first met her, I'd have a conversation that she'd be talking about. I'd be like, who is this person over here, right? I had to come up with different names. And by the look at the smile on your face, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I started naming the parts of my wife, so I knew who I was talking with, right? There's Bonnie Pearl, there's Sage, there's some names I can't tell you that are very
interesting. Is this Friday night, Layla, or is this Tuesday morning, Layla?
But the point of the matter is, we as humans try to reduce ourselves for simplicity's sake, and society does to one thing, it's easier to manage, right? There are many parts of you. So what's the part of this guy that's so intellectual that, he's gonna suffer and he's gonna get it done anyway? It's not this guy right here. This guy like this guy here. This guy's is this guy different?
Yeah.
Okay. So you just shifted just like that, right? So who's the guy who's in his head all the time, who's analyzing? Oh, he's brilliant, by the way. He's absolutely effing brilliant. And he can succeed in anything if he had that. What's that guy's name? Give me a nickname for that guy. One that maybe will make
Analytical
you
Alex.
laugh.
There you go.
What's
Analytical Alex.
that? Analytical what?
Analytical Alex.
Okay, analytical Alex. Okay, perfect. Okay? Who's this guy who was just laughing with me, looked over his wife, big smile on his face. Your smile is infectious, right? You know, and this is you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so who is this guy?
Anabolic Alex.
Anabolic Alex. So Anabolic Alex has so much life in him. Can you feel it?
Yeah.
Okay? So you what happens is, think about a relationship. Try it that way. Most people get in a relationship and I always tell people, the secret to relationship, 80% of having a great lasting relationship or intimate relationship is selection. And people will say to me, shit, why didn't you tell me that before I was married for 10 years? I said, no. I don't mean who you select. Who you select to be in this relationship. So when you're in the beginning of a relationship, what do most people do in the very beginning of a relationship? What will they do for the other person?
The best behavior.
Anything. Lighting them up lights you up. There's no transaction value. You're not trying to see what you can get. Like, your joy is making joy for them, right? And you give your all, you dress properly, or whatever properly.
Yeah.
But you get the idea. You give your best foot forward. Then people get married sometimes. And after a certain number of years, they forget. And they bring a different person to the table who's always analyzing. Like, what did you do versus what I do? And they're measuring. That's a transaction. No one wants to be part of a transaction in an intimate relationship. And when you ever do a transaction, it's not fair anyway, because in a relationship, it's like a team sport. You're climbing a mountain. Who's leading and who's following changes as you're climbing. If you're climbing a big mountain, right? You can't lead the whole damn time. You'd love to, but you can't. You gotta switch off, right, to make things work. So it's like, which part of you select to do business with? Which part of you is going to run your business? And so many of your viewers, I see people different than you. They'll be like, oh, I know I need to fire this person, or I need to let go of this, or I got to do this, but I just can't hurt them. I was in that stage at one stage of my own life. If you put that person in charge of your business, you're going to fail.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because you're going to be taking care of this person and hurting your platinum players, right? You're hurting your clients, right? So it's like, we all have to pick the person we're going to be and be conscious of that. And in your case, my friend, it's not so you can succeed, because this will make you succeed. I have a strong one here too. But if I let this thing take over, I would be bored shitless. I'd be like, okay, I got 5 sports teams, and I got $1 billion, and I got this business, that business, and everybody tells me every day I'm the greatest thing in their life, and I changed their life, and I got 5 kids, and like, where's the meaning of my life? Yeah. That's what the brain does, because the brain reduces everything and compares it, whereas the heart magnifies everything. It takes the little things that makes them bigger. What made you attracted to your wife when you first met her? By the way, who's this guy right here? Anabolic Alex. Right?
The honest truth was that
you probably already know this, but you may not know this part. So I'm looking around, and like in the last 39 years, every single stock market in the world, which is where most people put their money besides real estate, right? And if it's their own home, it just barely beats inflation, right? Every stock in the world's been beaten by private equity. By average private equity. So I interviewed the top 13 guys in the world, right? Well, the top 13 guys in the world, it's wonderful to interview them, but how are you going to get money in there, right? Because it's like trying to buy an SP3 Ferrari, right? I want to go get one, and they're all pre-sold at $3 million, right? It's like, but if you have one, and if you know the right person, so I got into some of those cool funds, like Vista. Robert Smith he's a genius. He's got a $100 billion fund. He's averaged 26% compounded per year for 25 years. It's like, it's unheard of, right? Nobody, but you can't get in, or you might get in. I got in, but I got such a little.
It's like, we'll take $100,000.
Like, $100,000. But okay, so let's look at this. Let's just do this. Try this for the people at home. In the last 39 years, if you put your money in the S&P 500, it's averaged 9%. Okay. So if you put $1 million in there, at the end of this time, you'd have 28.6 million. It's 100,000, it'd be 2.86 million. But if you put in an average private equity, it's been every stock market in the world, average private equity, not the guys I'm talking about. Average private equity has averaged 15.7% per year. I know the word passion literally comes from pain, I know that too. And sometimes we get caught up on the original definition versus how we can live it, right? But I love this idea. If you did that, how many people, does it matter how many? One person alone feels amazing when you do that, but is there a number that in your mind would say like, this would be like insanely fun, insanely great?
I think I would look at the generation. So it'd be like, how many men are in gyms?
Perfect.
And then like that sounds like a good start.
But well, that's a lot of kids. What's
Yeah.
the first target though? Because it's like,
I'd have to
it's
break
like I
it.
do the billion,
Yeah,
then I
yeah,
went to the 100 billion, right? You know? You want an unreasonable goal, but you need a timeline. So
Okay.
what would be our 36-month goal? Or 24-month goal? That would be unreasonable, but would get you up early and keep you up
Well,
late.
100,000 men at 100,000 is $1 billion in actual bank account wealth, and that sounds like a nice round number.
Yeah, feel like a nice round number. help 100,000 men
Hit 100,000.
get 100,000.
Yeah.